Hey guys, my name is Jeremy with thewarriorsolution.com. In this completely unplanned video for today, I'm going to show you how to fix and properly patch and repair a flat tire on your vehicle. I personally like to be prepared to handle situations and problems and such myself without any outside help whatsoever, if possible. Obviously, if outside help is available, great. If not, I don't want to be stuck wherever I am with whatever problem happens to arise. So I like to kind of maintain the mindset of being a problem solver and pre-planning for various issues and problems that may arise and being prepared to handle them. All of the tools and such I'm going to use to patch this tire, re-inflate it, and get the Jeep up and running, ready to go, is currently in the Jeep, and it's always been in the Jeep. So order of operation for this, number one, if you have them, safety glasses, because you only have two eyes, and if you lose one, that kind of sucks. So gloves to protect your hands from sharp objects, debris, cuts, but also maybe I just don't want to get my hands dirty. So gloves on. So before you start jacking your vehicle up in the air and everything, you want to make sure the vehicle is in park, your parking brake is set, and you want to find something. If you look at the back of an MRE box, it says a rock or something, and actually put some kind of physical object behind the tire or in front of the tire, depending on the slant that you're on, if you're on one. And that's just a redundant safety measure so that if something goes wrong and the vehicle wants to roll forward, it doesn't actually roll off the jack and crush you, which I would not recommend. So the jack is sort of an optional step depending on where the problem is and if you can see it or not with the tire on the ground. In this case, I cannot see the puncture wound. I'm not sure exactly where the problem is or what exactly the problem is. So I am going to jack up the tire, turn the steering wheel, and then rotate the tire so I can find the problem and just get easy, quick access, as well as to kind of show you how to do the various processes and such. So with a scissor jack like this part is the top, this is the bottom that's going to go on the ground, and then we have a little screw section here that is going to go out towards you. So I'm going to place that here. So up underneath your vehicle, between the body and the frame, there is something called a pinch weld, and that is the spot where that frame and the body are welded together. And you'll notice on this jack there's this little kind of cut in the middle there. That is to go right up into that pinch weld to give you something to hold on to securely. How this jack works, we have these two tools. This one has two purposes, or three I guess. Well, four if you want to whack somebody with it. But anyways, this end is for your lug nuts to remove your tire. This end is a flathead screwdriver. And then here we have a little cutout that goes into this tool and then allows you to rotate to increase the height of your jack. So what I'm going to do is use these tools together. First taking the hook apart, putting it into that loop there, and then the little square cutout is going to go on the end of that to give me a nice handle, which I can then rotate clockwise, and you'll see the scissor jack rising and then slowly rotating. Again, I'm just looking to make sure that I am on the pinch weld, and I am. So now I can just continue. We have our front tire now off the ground. If I was going to put on my spare tire, this should be high enough to get this tire off and put the spare on. If you're going to go with your spare tire just off the gate, if you do not have a patch kit and a compressor to put air into this tire, you're going to want to use your lug nut wrench and loosen these lug nuts prior to jacking the tire up off the ground. Otherwise, it's just going to rotate while you try to loosen them if it's airborne. All right, so I have the steering wheel turned out to the left so I can see the front of the tire here. And I'm just gonna spin this and look for the problem. So I'm looking for, obviously, any kind of punctures, nails, screws. I think I might, this is a strong contender for the problem right here. I'll just keep going around and see what else I find. Another really helpful tool for finding leaks in your tire is actually using soap and water. Just spray some of that on the tire, and wherever the leak is, it'll start bubbling up and make it real easy to see. All right, here we have a screw. So that's strong contender number 2. So I'll probably address both of these and just make sure that first one was not an actual puncture. But this is definitely a screw right here. So another tool that you definitely want to keep in your vehicle is some kind of multi-tool. This one happens to be a Leatherman Mutt. Other options are going to be from SOG and Gerber. But you definitely want to keep a tool like this for situations like this, where you need to physically grab something and pull it out of your tire. So that right there is a nail. So we definitely have a hole here that we'll be repairing. So this is a tire patch kit that I picked up on Amazon, but this kit comes with the tools necessary to actually repair this hole. So this tool is a reaming tool. Basically, it's going to be used to make this puncture a little bit larger, as well as roughen up the edges, so that we can then take this tool, which is essentially like a giant needle and thread, basically, where the thread in this case is actually a synthetic rubber patch that's also infused with permanent glue, basically. So we're going to take this, thread it through that loop after we do the hole there. So steps in order. Step 1, take your reaming tool and push it into that puncture. There we go. So it seems a little counterintuitive here what I'm doing, but this is an important step because it prepares that puncture for the next step. So let's get out. There we go. And you can hear we do have now a larger hole, obviously. So the next step is going to be to take this tool and the patches, grab one of these and then thread it in there. So I'm gonna thread that patch on there so it's halfway in the middle, like so. Throw my gloves back on. Now, if you look closely at the top of this tool, you'll notice that it's not actually attached there. So how this works is I'm going to push it into the hole. It's going to fold on itself like so, and I'm going to push it in till there's about maybe a centimeter or so sticking out. Once I'm to that point, I'm going to pull very hard and very fast back out, which is going to leave the patch in the hole. It's going to pass through the little opening there in the front. This is going to open up a little bit, which will leave the patch, remove the tool, and then we'll go from there. So I'm just going to push it into that hole. And this is the reason you want to do that reaming step, because it has to be large enough to actually fit all this extra junk in there. This process is a lot easier if the tire is not jacked off of the ground. You can see as I'm pushing on it here how the tire wants to rotate. It is also easier if there's a little bit of air in the tire. So if you happen to catch a leak before all the air leaves, this process is a lot easier than it looks here. So I'm just slowly pushing in. All right, that's about far enough. So now, don't know if you can see that with the shadows, but what we have is just a little bit of a tail sticking out and then the tool in the hole. So now what I'm going to do is grab hold of this and pull straight out quickly and forcefully, like so, which is going to leave the patch in the hole. My tool is now free and the patch is in place. From here, you can technically leave this patch sticking out like that and it'll wear off over time as you drive. However, I would recommend actually cutting that to be flush with the rest of the tire. The reason is, as you drive, this may get caught and stick on something and actually pull out of the tire. So I'm just going to take my blade here from my multi-tool, just trim that flush and get rid of the excess. So now that patch is complete. If that was the only hole that we had, we could then air up the tire and be good to go. In this case, we actually have another issue, which is right here. So we have a small screw in the tread that we're going to address next. So as far as patching kits like this go, as a general rule, you can patch and repair any punctures within the tread of the tire. If you have issues on the sidewalls, the patch kit is most likely not going to work, and it's definitely not going to be a permanent fix. If you do have a gouge or slice on your sidewall, you can try to finagle these patches in place, but it's definitely not going to be a permanent solution. But if you're like out on the trail, for example, and there's literally nothing around anywhere, it might work. So again, here you can see the importance of having some kind of pliers or multi-tool in your vehicle to be able to grab hold of the head of this small screw here that was embedded in my tire. So, problem number 2. Again, to fix this second hole, same steps as before. First, I'm going to take my reaming tool. So same as before, just taking the patch, passing it through the eyelet there. You can do this step prior to reaming if you do have a little bit of air in your tire, just so you're not wasting time and air trying to get this thing into that insertion tool while the air is actually escaping the tire. Getting it centered up like so. I'll turn my gloves back on and let's get this patched. So same as before, just pushing in. In this case, I'm kind of twisting back and forth a little bit. All right, we'll call that one good. It doesn't really technically have to be all the way in where you only have a tiny bit sticking out. As long as you know that the patch is covering the entire width of the rubber of the tire itself, then you'll be fine. So once again, I'm going to grab hold of this, pull quickly and forcefully straight out. The patch passes through that hole and then closes in on itself. And I'm going to take my knife, cut off the tails so that it's flush. Like so. That'll wear down as we start driving. All right, so that is that hole fixed. So now that we have the tire patched, the next step is going to be put the air back in it so that we can actually drive on it. This is it's branded AAA. I'm pretty sure it's just a generic made in China little portable air compressor. It actually runs on the 12 volt DC of the vehicle itself. So we got the power cord here all embedded inside, and then the actual air hose also embedded in the side. If you're not familiar with tires and how to put air in them and such, this right here is what we're looking for. This is called a valve stem, and it is the point at which air is normally put in the tire. So this part of the air compressor, you're gonna open that up so it's parallel with itself, and this goes straight over your valve stem like so, and then you close this down, and now it's locked onto that valve stem. So I can leave this working here while I go, put tools away or whatever. So I have it plugged into the 12-volt power outlet inside the Jeep. Again, I'm gonna start the engine just so I don't drain my battery at the same time. There are other options as far as products and such on the market to fix flat tires. Things like Fix-A-Flat work, but they're not something that I would recommend unless it's an absolute emergency. Fix-A-Flat works by actually injecting basically a spray foam type gel into the tire itself, and it will plug holes, but it also makes a huge mess, and a lot of tire shops will actually refuse to work on your tires after you've used Fix-A-Flat. It's only a viable option for extreme emergencies. It doesn't take up a lot of room in your trunk, but it's not something that I would recommend as your go-to solution for fixing flat tires. All right, 36 PSI. So this tire is now completely repaired, patched, reinflated with the manufacturer's recommended pressure, and we are ready to get back on the road and get on with our day and what we were doing before we had this problem. So an optional step, obviously, sitting in my driveway here, I'm going to do this just to verify that everything is good to go. What you can do is take some water, just drop a little dab of soap in there if you want, and actually pour it over your patch points. And what you're looking for is obviously air bubbles coming out. So I'm just gonna pour just a little bit. And again, what you're looking for is air bubbles coming out from around that patch area. The soap just helps the water kind of stick on that area versus running down and off of it like it is here. So this patch is holding air nicely. And there you have it. That is how you properly patch and repair your own tire. All of the tools that I used in this video are going to be linked below if you want to pick them up. I'll also add a few variations for different options and things. So thanks for watching. If this is the first video you've seen from my channel, I normally do like guns and gear type stuff. If you're into that kind of thing, check out my other videos. If not, I appreciate you watching, and I hope you learned something.